Hello and welcome to another edition of Serving St. Clair County. I am Sheriff Tim Donnellon, and today we are going to discuss a countywide as well as a nationwide drug epidemic, and that is the heroin problem, which is a significant issue here in St. Clair County. And joining me today, I'm going to have Lieutenant Kevin Manns from St. Clair County Drug Task Force, Kim Prouse from Community Mental Health, and Dr. Daniel Spitz from the St. Clair County Medical Examiner. So, Lieutenant, how are you?
Nice to be here, Sheriff. Nice to talk to you anytime.
Glad you could get loose from your work and make it over with us today.
Thank you, sir.
So, Kevin, we both go back a little bit with our gray hair on the organization, better than 2 decades.
Yes, we do, sir.
And we both spent a long time in the drug unit. And up until probably 3-4 years ago, this opiate-based issues with the heroin and the prescription pills was never an issue, was it?
Right. This is my third time that I've been out in the drug task force. It's probably been 12 or 13 years since the second time. And I got to tell you, 12, 13 years ago, we just didn't see the heroin, Sheriff. You know that, on the streets. Your big problems was your crack cocaine and your powder cocaine. And all of a sudden, there isn't almost a day that doesn't go by where we see the heroin on the streets.
Well, we're seeing this heroin now. And I know when I left in 2005, it was non-event. But really what we're seeing first was the prescription pills. And I know we have this
Yeah, absolutely.
this diagram here, and it's showing the amount of pills that we've had in 2010 and how it's just gone up, 700, 2,000, 1,500, 2,200, and just climbing and climbing and climbing. What do you make of that with the opiate-based pills?
Well, again, just about every raid that we do, we're finding prescription medications that don't belong to the people in the house. A lot of them are opiate-based medicines, and what I think they're doing is when they can't get that, and when they need that, then they're switching to the heroin because it's also all opium-based.
So, drug of choice.
Yeah.
You're on your prescription medication, you can't get the medication, you're going to go through withdrawal because it's opiate-based, so you go to heroin.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like.
Well, and I'm looking at this chart here, and we've got 2010, 11, 12, and 13.
That's correct.
Now, I know if you go back from 2005,
Well,
there was no heroin.
no.
Really, just crack cocaine.
I mean, once in a great while you come across heroin in the old days, but that was somebody that was really broken down and it was really bad, and you just didn't hear about it. It was non-existent, and now, like I say, it's just almost every day.
Well, that is some scary statistics.
Sure
here,
is.
That we're seeing a lot of it. And I know later today we're going to talk with other people that are involved in the system that's going to talk about their aspect. But when we're looking at the heroin, I know we're also talking about some of the cause and effects. I know that we have a countywide crime problem. Do you want to touch a little bit on what we see on that as well?
Well, the problem is they get hooked on the drug, and they're going to need their money somehow. And what they're doing is they're breaking into businesses, they're breaking into your homes, and they're breaking into your vehicles to get the money for this sort of thing. And I think your numbers are going to show of all the breaking-ins that we've had in the county have been going up every year.
Well, and I do look at this, and the B&E vehicles, pretty high, but I look at these B&E buildings.
That's scary.
And that is scary. And
Yeah.
I know that we have crews that'll run in St. Clair County, North crews, South crews, that are just bandits
Yeah.
on heroin breaking into houses.
And a lot of them, as we're knocking some of these groups down, you can see they're coming up from Detroit, and they're coming up into our communities, and they all got the drug problem. They're all heroin addicted, and what they're doing is they're looking for places during the day and sometimes in the evenings when nobody's home, and they're breaking into these homes.
Let's hold up and show what we have here. Now, all of the drugs you brought was out of our evidence room that was seized in a drug raid in St. Clair County.
Yeah, from one raid or another. That's where they're from. And what I brought here is just a kind of just a few different things that you can see here. It's the packaging here. This is what we commonly call a jewelry fold, but what it is generally they'll take old lottery tickets and fold it up, and then they got their heroin in there. And generally what that is for one-time use. They pay about $20, $25 for that, and then they use that. And there's that.
And that's going to be called a bindle.
Yes,
Yep.
Exactly. Yep.
And 12 bindles is, I'm going to test you, a bundle.
Very good. Yeah, and here's more of the little packaging too. You got the individual little seals, if you will, on those.
Right, little Ziploc bag.
Yeah,
Individually.
yeah, and again, They start out by crushing it and snorting it, and then sometimes they smoke it, but as they progress and they want more of an instant high, then they get into melting it on the with the lighter on a spoon and using the needle, and that's where it gets.
Now when you go into a party store and you see these little baggies for sale at the counter, a lot of people don't know what that is.
Yeah, well,
that's for heroin.
drug packaging.
It's drug packaging material. Same thing with the little glass flowers. Crack pipes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just don't know that this is drug paraphernalia.
Yeah,
and it's over the counter, just like Charboy for crack.
Absolutely.
But,
these are things as parents you need to look for when you see in your teenage.
Absolutely.
Here's an actual, just a hunk of, if you want to show that there, that's a hunk of the heroin itself.
Right.
Again, about $25.
$25 worth.
Yeah.
And that will, get a couple people high.
Yeah.
But they'll do that a few times a day.
Yeah.
And that'll be crushed up, and either, like you said, it'll be snorted, it could be ingested, or they're going to stick it in their arm through a needle.
And the problem is you're getting all kinds of overdoses in the community and everything else.
Absolutely, and we're going to address that with CMH as well with medical examiner's office. Now, you brought some pills along too.
Oh yeah, these are some of your more.
Let's bring those over and
commonly used or abused, I should say.
So opiate based.
Yep. Yeah. Prescription medicine.
Okay.
Yeah. You get
Three
Vicodin, of course, and you got what do you got there? Loratab.
Loratab and codeine.
Yeah, codeine. Yeah.
And we're seeing the OxyContin, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just like I said, every raid that we do, and we find any prescriptions that don't belong to the people or that live there in that house, or we take them and we charge these people. I mean, it's just trying to get it off the street.
And pretty common when you're going to the drug raid now, you'll see pills and heroin.
Yeah, and they're often packaged 1 or 2 pills separate in a little baggies and ready to go
It's
too.
just for sale.
Yeah.
So drug of choice, you're opiate addict,
Right.
You're not on crack, you're not doing other drugs. This is the drug of choice, your opiate, and you'll see them both together side by side.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's new too.
Yeah, this just.
Okay.
I mean, we got much more than this, but this is just
And this is just a picture of
miscellaneous different kinds of.
just different kinds of pills.
Yep.
And I know we have garbage bags full of this, and we take it to the DEA. And, and this stuff isn't turned in. This is picked up in drug raids.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have tenfold that comes into our office.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a.
That's a good program that they're running, and they can turn that in, so it doesn't get out on the street.
Well, I tell you, Kevin, we sure appreciate you taking the time out of your busy afternoon. If people need to get a hold of the Drug Task Force,
Oh, please do so.
how do they do it?
Well, a couple of different ways. We've got you can go through our web page. You can get on the computer, and where's our phone number?
Right here.
We have the phone number right there. Certainly call. You can leave your name, or you don't have to leave your name. If you got some information and you just want to pass it on, it's going to be information that we need. We keep all that information. Just give us a call, please. Let me explain this to you. We are out there to help the citizens of this community, and what we need is your help too. If you see some activity in your neighborhood that looks suspicious to you, give us a call so we can follow up on it and see what's going on. Thank you.
Again, 1-800-243-DRUG, and that's 3784. No caller ID.
That's correct.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of issues in this community, and you really only know where to focus your problems is if somebody's directing us.
Absolutely.
And the county is 744 miles, and heroin is as prevalent as Algonac, as it is in Port Huron, as it is in Capac. It's just in perspective of your population.
Yeah.
So pick the phone up and call, so we can get out
Please
there
do.
and take a look at it.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of times when you're writing a search warrant, that tip is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Absolutely.
That phone call that comes
It's the
in.
added paragraph that we need to get that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, we again appreciate you taking your time out of your day. I know you probably got another 16 hours to work today.
It's been a busy couple of weeks.
Oh, it sure has. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Kim Prouse from Community Mental Health, and this is Sheriff Tim Donnellon serving St. Clair County.
What does good planning bring to business? Real revenue. With vibrant neighborhoods, pedestrian-friendly avenues, and good public transportation, people in a well-planned community come together in ways that support the local economy. That means that stores, restaurants, and services in the area thrive. Good planning brings value to everyone in the community. Learn more at planning.org. That's planning.org. A message from the American Planning Association.
Welcome back to Serving St. Clair County. I'm Sheriff Tim Donnellon, and joining me is Kim Prouse from Community Mental Health.
Nice to meet you.
Well, Kim, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
Now, boy, we just got done speaking with Lieutenant Mans,
Yep.
and he is in charge of our drug task force. And I can tell you, I had his job for a few years. I don't want it back. And there's probably not a more difficult job in the law enforcement community. Now, when we get into the community mental health community, which are our partners, you've got probably the same difficult job in your shop.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit of what your position is and how long you've been with
Sure.
CMH.
I have been with CMH for about 5 years.
Oh, you're new.
I'm a newbie, yeah, and I work as a coordinating agency supervisor.
Okay.
And it's actually the substance abuse coordinating agency, and what that does is it's kind of charged with overseeing the programming throughout St. Clair County that addresses substance abuse treatment, prevention, and recovery services. And we do that through a contract with the Michigan Department of Community Health, and as well as overseeing the programming with Medicaid funding as well.
Well, I know that there's all different types of people that have drug abuse and how it affects them, but we're seeing people that with pre-existing mental health issues. Can you talk to us a little bit about that when you tie it into the drug epidemic that we're seeing?
Yeah, certainly. When we look at our data on the individuals that come in through treatment, we're seeing that about 50% of those individuals who are seeking treatment for substance abuse also have a co-occurring mental health disorder.
Okay.
So when somebody is using a drug such as an opiate or heroin, it certainly intensifies the symptoms of their mental health issue and kind of exacerbates the need for treatment and the severity of their illness.
So I know that we have an aspect of folks that have mental health issues, and hopefully they're taking their medication and their treatment and they're staying within the boundaries. And then we have this whole aspect which is kind of new that I'm seeing, and I call them Joe Lunchbox. You're a normal Joe citizen that's got no mental health issues, no criminal record,
Right.
and they're becoming these opiate-based addicts and then heroin addicts, and then I get involved with them.
Right.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because really that we had not seen in the law enforcement capacity in the past.
Yeah.
What tell us about that?
Well, I think a lot of people have this picture in their head of who a heroin addict is or who a junkie is, and you hear those words thrown around, and they think of somebody that's scruffy and that's in an alley with a needle in their arm, and we really need to stop stigmatizing in that way and kind of throw out that language and throw out those ideals, because that just isn't who we're seeing coming through the door with these issues. We're seeing teens sometimes, into early 20s coming in, where originally maybe they had their wisdom teeth taken out and were prescribed an opiate and may have used it too long, may have not used the appropriate dose that they were prescribed, and do become addicted to that, and then they go and they seek that drug on the street and find that it's extremely expensive to attain it, and that's where we're seeing a large amount of the individuals coming through, starting out with the prescription drugs and then turning to the heroin, because it is a cheaper form of that same high that they're seeking so desperately.
And we have some of the street prices that maybe you can touch on that it is very expensive.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you have Detroit, which is 40 minutes from here, which is a destination city for narcotics, there's no secret about that. And you can have folks coming from Detroit to St. Clair County to sell it, or you can have people from St. Clair County commuting to Detroit.
Right.
So if they're on a prescription pill and they can't get it, and they either run out of money or they're going to withdrawal, there's the heroin right next door.
Yeah, it's so much easier to attain. It's cheaper. We're seeing street values of the Vicodin $10+ a pill. I've heard some people say, I've heard $80 thrown out in some areas.
Sure.
And
A lot based on the milligram.
exactly.
I mean,
what
the
the
bigger
dose,
the pill,
if it's
the more
extended
money.
release, if it's this, there's a big variance in the street value, but we have this chart that shows the increase per year of the amount of individuals that are actually seeking treatment for heroin or other opioid abuse issues. And what's so important to remember about these numbers is that these are just the people that are seeking treatment. This is not a full scope picture of the problem that's facing our county right now. Truly, these are the people seeking treatment, and the problem is so much greater than what these numbers show. But you can clearly see that there's a large increase over the years. From 2009, we were in the 300s, and now we're in over 600 people per year are seeking treatment for heroin or other opioid abuse treatment.
And I can tell you, Kim, we talked a little about this before we went on the air. Community mental health, just like St. Clair County Sheriff's Office, we're under budget cuts. We're not getting any bigger, we're getting smaller.
Right.
And if there's ever a time where you want to beef up your staff and try to fight the battle when there's an epidemic, it's now.
Right.
And no fault of yours or ours, we're going the other way.
Right.
I mean, you guys have had massive layoffs. We've had layoffs. So it really makes the situation just that much harder. Longer waits for the people to get help, more difficult on the employees, more difficult on everybody. And that is, that's a tough situation we're in, So you really have to, support your commissioners that are going to fund the community mental health and to fund the law enforcement and to fund the medical examiner's office, all these different spokes to the machine, because we're all interconnected. And if we don't think we're in an epidemic, you look at those stats.
Right.
And when we see the stats with our next guest, it's even more frightening. But, we talked about a fraction that are calling. That doesn't touch the ones that we're responding to for the ODs or the ones we're picking up on drug raids. I mean, that's just a little piece of the snowball.
It's such a small piece of what is really happening out there.
Now, we have people that will reach out for help. And we have the number.
Yes.
And let's hold that up so they know how to reach out for help.
Yes.
What do you think they're saying when they're calling? Thank goodness they're calling.
Yeah, thank goodness they are calling. And it's a vast array of different stories and reasons that people are calling. Sometimes it's family members, sometimes it's the person themselves who they feel like they've hit rock bottom, or they've seen a friend have an overdose, or I often get emails from mothers who say, please help, my son will die without help. And so this is the number that needs to be called. This is our access line, and this is where you would be referred to one of our contract agencies who can provide services and or any other referral source needs that individual needs.
Well, I'll tell you, that is some great advice. I mean, it's a pretty sobering topic, but let's hope that people pay heed to that number. And even if, like you say, it's a parent can refer it to their son, or make the call for them,
Right.
And get them the help, because no matter how much your office is overtaxed, you guys are there, you're going to rise to the occasion, and you're going to get it done.
Right.
Just like the drug task force guys. They're overwhelmed. They're going to fight day in and day out.
Yes.
Well, Kim, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And when we come back, we are going to be joined by Dr. Daniel Spitz from the St. Clair County Medical Examiner's Office, and I'm Sheriff Tim Donnellon, serving St. Clair County.
Imagine a time when no one person has Parkinson's disease, is debilitated by a stroke, and no family suffers the tragedy of Alzheimer's. Some of the best minds in America are doing more than imagining. The American Brain Foundation is seeking to find cures, where life without brain disease isn't just something we can imagine, it's something we can know. Help us get there.
Well, this is Sheriff Tim Donnellon, and welcome back to Serving St. Clair County. Now, with me is my good friend, Dr. Daniel Spitz from the St. Clair County Medical Examiner's Office. Well, Doc, I'll tell you, we just met with Lieutenant Kevin Mans from the Drug Task Force, and we talked about the enforcement end of it. We met with Kim Proust from Community Mental Health, and she talked about the intervention aspect of it. And now it's pretty darn sad, but we're with the Medical Examiner's Office, and that's kind of the last stop on the train here.
Right.
So Doc, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's talk a little bit about yourself. You've been with us for how long now?
Shoot, it's almost 7 years, I think, 7, 8 years.
7, 8 years.
And I've certainly enjoyed serving the county and being the medical examiner. And I'm hoping that the work that we do really helps the families and helps the living. A lot of people think that the work the medical examiner does is really dealing with the dead, and that's true. But it's really to help the living.
Well, absolutely, and I'll tell you, it's very comfortable for us in the law enforcement capacity because you wear multiple hats. You're also the medical examiner in Macomb County.
Right.
We border Macomb County. We work a lot of joint investigations, and unfortunately, when it comes to the final chapter of the death, it is sure nice from an investigator standpoint, as a former detective, to have the same guy calling the shots on both counties. And I was kind of laughing to myself, if there's anyone born to be the ME, it's you. Because what probably a lot of folks don't know that are watching this, that your father is a nationally renowned ME.
Right. No, he's been around for a long time, and
is he still working a little bit?
a little bit. Yeah, he's almost 90 years old now.
Is he almost 90?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And Dr. Spitz Sr. there, and Wayne County ME as well, and worked in the JFK and O.J. Simpson and some of the landmark cases, which is pretty cool. You see a lot of second-generation cops, and I guess you see a lot of second-generation MEs as well. But that's the good stuff to talk about. But tell us a little bit about the trends we've seen at the medical examiner's office.
The medical examiner's office sees a lot of drug-related deaths, and certainly heroin has become a big problem. It's a problem in Macomb County, it's a problem in St. Clair County, and as you indicated earlier, it is a nationwide problem. The other problem that we see, and maybe even a bigger problem, is prescription drug overdoses. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people think that because prescription drugs are prescribed by a doctor and that people take them all the time, that they can't hurt me, they're fine. Yeah, sure, I can take a few of these and it's not going to hurt me. But the answer to that is that they absolutely can hurt you. And when we look at all of our drug overdoses, the largest group is in fact mixed prescription drugs.
Tied in with alcohol or what have you,
Sure.
or another controlled substance. I mean, like Lieutenant Mann said, you come into a drug house, and what do you have for sale? Opiate-based prescription RX drugs and heroin.
Right.
And that is frightening.
And I think one often leads to the other, and
Absolutely.
I think you covered that. The prescription drugs can be obtained up to a point, and then they become difficult because doctors are reluctant to continue to prescribe those.
Sure.
So you then are left to find them on the street, and that's when the prices of those drugs is quite high, and so now you're left with the decision of needing to get the high that you have been getting, and you're left with the issue of how do I do that? And heroin is the answer for some of these people.
And if there's ever spin the game a Russian roulette, it's bad enough to abuse an opiate pill that how many milligrams are there. It was manufactured somewhere. You may be taking it inappropriately, too much of it, with no business taking it. But boy, when you start buying heroin, you have no idea what you're getting. I mean,
Right.
We see all aspects of famous movie stars to professional people to young kids. It's a lot of different faces.
Right. You really don't know what you're using when you use heroin. I know years ago there was the problem of heroin being mixed with fentanyl, and you don't know when that might come up again.
Right.
You just don't know what you're taking.
Macomb County.
There were a lot in Wayne County, a
And
couple
Wayne and
in Macomb County. And again, you just don't know what you're taking. You don't know what's mixed with it. It's hard to regulate the amount that is going to get you the high versus take you one step further and ultimately cause your death.
And it seems like the overdoses on prescription pills too. It's a lot of the either the young kids that had a bad knee and they started taking it and they're stealing it from a grandparent, or the person with a habitual bad back on disability, and what they take on Monday and Tuesday is fine. The same amount may kill them on Wednesday.
Sure.
There's just no rhyme or
Well,
reason.
that's very true. A lot of these unfortunate cases start off as an innocent reason to begin taking
Absolutely,
the drugs.
sure.
An injury, a hospitalization, a surgery, what have you. But there comes a point when you shouldn't be taking them anymore. And if you do continue to need them, you've probably crossed the line from taking the drugs for a legitimate reason, and now you're into the to the abuse portion of that. And really, so people need to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, taking these drugs as prescribed is one thing, but taking them for a continued period of time, beginning to mix drugs, taking more because there is a tolerance that is built up, should be the signs that you're starting to have a problem.
You know, and that's where the CMH comes into play. You know, that phone number's there, they'll get you the help because, you know, 500 inmates in our jail, any given day, there's numerous inmates going through withdrawal, opiate and alcohol.
Yes.
And we are very conscious of the fact we don't want them dying, but boy, it is a painful thing to watch. Now, I know we had some numbers and some stats, and these are pretty darn sobering. Let's talk a little bit about what you see at the ME's office with the deaths, unfortunately. Like I said, you're the last stop at the train.
Right, and as I said before, you know, these numbers are sobering, but we hope that, you know, we can generate an interest in what's going on so that intervention can ultimately save lives. And over the last 3 years, pretty consistently, we've seen about a third of the forensic exams that are being done are in fact on drug-related deaths. So,
and when you think about car accidents, just unnatural, sudden, a heart attack, you're going to do a post on, you're going to do one on an auto accident, you're going to have some suicides.
Sure.
But a third of these are overdoses.
Right, of all the cases that we do, we're dealing with all the accidents that occur in the county, all the sudden natural deaths, the industry, industrial type accidents. You know, it's a third of these that are drug related, and of that, the biggest percentage is in the mixed prescription drugs.
What kind of numbers are we talking?
Well, last year we had 39 drug-related deaths, and 13 of those were heroin-related.
So in the last 3 years, how many?
I think it's been 112, if that's correct, 112 deaths in the past 3 years. I think it was 45 in 2011, 28 in 2012, and this year we bumped up, unfortunately, to 39 drug-related deaths. 22 of those were prescription-related, prescription drugs, primarily opiates, and 13 in 2013 were, in fact, heroin-related.
I tell you, I hate to end on 112 deaths, but you know, you work in Macomb with 1 million people. St. Clair County's got 165,000. It's too many people.
Absolutely.
Too many people.
Absolutely.
We've got numbers to call, and you know, we're going to either knock down these doors and catch them, or we're going to rehab them. And we hope next year you have nothing to do up here. We still want you working here, Doc,
I hope so.
but we don't want this.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Spitz, thank you so much for taking your time out. Couple numbers to remember: Drug Task Force 1-800-243-DRUG, and our CMH 1-888-225-4447. Please call those numbers. Either we'll do the enforcement end of it, or we'll get you the help you need. But we want to knock this epidemic down. And this is Sheriff Tim Donnellon, serving St. Clair County.